Welcome to the Global Woman series, a summer of honest conversations with women navigating life between worlds. From grief and reinvention to finding love at 39, these are the real, raw, and wise stories of global women redefining home, identity, and connection. Over the next few weeks, you'll hear from inspiring voices who've lived the questions about belonging, purpose, relationships, and what it really means to choose this life abroad. I'm Amanda Maxime, and this is This Expat Life. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, today I have another beautiful interview for you with Brigette Muller, a true global citizen. And Brigette's journey from South Africa to Tampa, USA, as an immigrant who embraced a significant life change when her wife suddenly passed away, really showcases her resilience and desire for a global connection. And in this episode, I'm interviewing Brigette on her grief while she was living abroad. As you may know, grief is a really important topic for me as I lost both my parents and also two friends in just a short amount of time. And I found that it's a theme that's often overlooked, especially when we talk about expat life. But I'm sure it happens more often than we realize. So I was really happy I got connected with Brigette to talk about this important topic that affects our life so much when it actually happens, when we lose a loved one. And Brigette's story also highlights again that as an expat, one development or event or something that's going on in your life isn't just related to that particular area of your life. Because if something happens, whether that's a career that you lose or a loved one who passes away or something else that happens, it brings up questions about other aspects of your life as well, such as, do I still even want to live here? I'm really thankful to Brigette for really opening up about her journey after her wife passed away. And she also has really good tips of what you can do if you find yourself in the same position, which I hope not. If you have lost a loved one or you know someone who is going through grief, this episode is really for you. So I hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you would like to share about how it helped you or if you got something out of it, please do let us know. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or email me at info@amandamaximecoaching.com. And I also put Brigette's link in the show notes. Enjoy the interview. Hey Brigette, welcome to This Expat Life. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Well, it's good morning where I am. Great, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Where are you calling in from actually?
I'm actually in Tampa in Florida in the US. Sunny, hot, very hot. Let me just tell you that.
Yeah. It's quite the opposite from here. I'm calling in from The Hague, where I live, and it's supposed to be beautiful spring here, but it's so cold and rainy that it feels like autumn, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness, they're already counting down to hurricane season, yeah. So it's going to be a fun ride this year for us with this heat.
I bet. Hey, I'm really happy that you are here in This Expat Life. Grief is actually an important topic to me as I lost both my parents and also two friends while I lived abroad, or I knew them from abroad. And I'm really happy that you're here with us today to talk about your journey and your loss of your wife and the grief. And I would love to hear maybe the context of your story. So what made you move from South Africa to the US? And what happened there? Could you maybe take us through that period?
Sure. Thank you. Well, thank you for asking the question and giving me the opportunity. So basically, I am South African, born and raised, love my country very, very much. But for those of you in the know, the country is struggling a little bit economically, politically, a lot of crime. There's very little work. Unemployment is very high in the country. Mm-hmm. So we got married in 2012 and we started building this beautiful life together, and then in Cape Town, actually in South Africa. And then we started realizing that we were running into a little bit of trouble in terms of, are we going to be able to retire one day? Is there job security for us? And then the escalation of the crime and kind of just living in a little more of a fearful life on the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation, and when we decided, you know what, if we have an opportunity to emigrate, we should absolutely take it. So we looked at multiple options. She was Scottish born. So she had a UK passport. So that was an option. We were looking, actually, funnily enough, at the Netherlands and at England at the same time. Mm-hmm. But We were also looking at other countries where South Africans were immigrating to, such as Australia and New Zealand. There's a ton of South Africans that have moved there too.
Yeah.
But deep down, I always had this real urge that I really wanted to come to the US. And for some other reason, there was just this burning desire to come here. And it's not as easy to get into
I
this
know.
country like
Yeah,
it is. It's really difficult to get
it
in
is.
here. And I brought Claire over multiple times to visit, so that she could, see what it was about. And she fell in love with it too. Everything's big and beautiful and all these things. So we started the process, which all in all, from beginning to end, took about, oh gosh, must be about 7 or 8 years to complete, right?
Yeah.
So we put in our applications, everything kind of went through, and then oh my goodness, and then we fly up to the U.S. Embassy in Sandton in South Africa, and we didn't know what to expect, honestly. And we had this interview, this very serious interview in the embassy. And by the end of the interview, and they looked at all the paperwork, a lot of paperwork, a lot of money. Like, it took
Yeah.
our entire life savings to get you. Let
Wow.
me just tell you that. And then by the end of that interview, they stamped the paperwork and they were like, okay, we're going to go ahead and issue that visa. We were so excited. But then in the next breath, they were like, well, that's great, but you have 6 months to honor this. So you need to pack up your life,
Wow.
sell everything, and leave within 6 months, because if you don't, you lose it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a mad scrabble. Anyway, we were very excited, and we literally sold everything we owned. And we arrived in 2017 at JFK in New York City with our 2 dogs and 2 bags each. And that was it. No driver's license, no social security, no bank account, no cell phone that worked. I mean, there was a moment we were like, what the heck did we just do? What did we just do? Because everything is so different here too. They drive on the other side of the road.
Of course, yeah.
We had to go back to driving school with 16-year-olds and sit and write the test and redo the test, that kind of thing. But so that was kind of our journey. And so we ended up landing in JFK, and we had some people that we knew that lived in Connecticut, just outside of New York. And we stayed in their attic for a number of months while we started figuring this all out, like, okay, what are we going to do? Because neither of us had work or anything. And all our credit cards are maxed out. Everything had been spent. We were like, okay, we really have to make this work. And that is the short form, but that's how we landed here.
Wow. Okay. And so then what happened? You landed in New York, but you now find yourself in Tampa. So what happened in between?
So in between, we lived in Connecticut for must be about 3 or 4 years. And coming from South Africa, we enjoyed the experience, but we did struggle with the weather. Yeah. So Connecticut, New York, the northeast of the US has significant snowfall. The winters are pretty intense. And we just decided, like, by the 4th year or whichever year it was, I forget now, that we just couldn't deal with another winter. It was really, and combine that with COVID, right? So now it's COVID, you can't go anywhere, then it's winter and it's dark at 4 p.m. and it's snowing out there. So we just realized that mentally it wasn't very, very healthy for us. So we literally looked at the map of the US and said, okay, how far south can we go, staying on the same coastline? And if possible, because we're both from Cape Town and we love sunsets, can we get onto the West Coast somewhere so we can enjoy sunsets? And we need to be close to an international airport because we both love to travel so much. Yeah. And we literally just threw a straight line down, and Tampa was it. Boom. It's like throwing a dart at a board or something. And we literally just got in our car, packed everything up. By then my Labrador had passed away. So we still have the pug. She's 13 now. And then I'd adopted or rescued a cat. So now I've got a cat and a dog in the back of the car. We pack everything up and we drive from Connecticut to Tampa and found a spot here. And I've been here, 2-3 years? And 3 years, I think it is. You lose track of time, right? when you're doing these things, and starting to slowly fall in love with the place. I think this is a really good spot. Out of everywhere we could have chosen, I think it was a good choice for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Nice. So, could you also share more about the story and the journey of losing your wife? Because that is something huge that happened in the last couple of years as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not something that you plan for, that you expect
Yeah.
or anything like that, right? Because we gave up everything we knew, everyone we knew, and we moved to this new country. And now we just moved states too, which
Yeah.
in the US, it's such a big country. It's such a big country that moving state to state is like moving to a new country. Everything
Hmm.
is so much different, right? And we arrived in Tampa. Sure, it was just before Christmas, December, and not even a year later, suddenly she passed away. That we had some medical issues we were looking into, but nothing too significant that we thought was too serious to consider. She was going for different tests. She was a personal trainer, so very
Yeah.
healthy, top of, like really looked after herself. Since I met her, she was my personal trainer when I met her.
Huh. Yeah.
And then passed away in her sleep just suddenly.
Oh.
And that was not even a year later. And we'd barely even established ourselves, one, in the area,
Hmm.
and two, we had bought this house that we moved into because this was going to be our forever home. This is where
Yeah.
we're going to retire. This is what we've been working towards. And the, you know, the shock of it, I mean, I still can't believe that it actually
Yeah.
happened, right?
Hmm.
There's a almost like you just don't believe it really
Yeah.
did take place. And why did it? And you start to question all these things, right? So um I think just the sheer fact that there was no real signs.
Hmm.
And when I say she was going for tests at the doctor, it was just basic tests. It was like your regular physical. There were some issues and she'd had it for many years where she was having these heart palpitations,
Hmm.
right? And I think just the anxiety of moving down here and, the stress. Now we move from one state to the other, and then it's COVID, and then you got to move your business. And she had her own business. There were a lot of things that were just coming at us. So there was a lot of stressful factors, and we arrive in this place, and now suddenly we don't have any friends again, and we've got to
Yeah.
start over. We don't even know where the local grocery store is. We don't even know where, just to find a doctor, takes some doing.
Yeah.
So I think, we were so wrapped up in all of these logistics. It was, we were under a lot of pressure, and then wake up one day, and then my person is gone.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. It's still, I mean, it's a process. You work through these things, right? Because what ends up happening is, so she passes away, and then suddenly you have to divert your attention to all these other things that need to
Yeah.
take place. There's
Hmm.
and it sounds terrible, but there's a lot of administration that
Yeah.
comes with someone's passing. And now I'm in a foreign country,
Yeah.
in a new state, and I have no idea what needs to be done.
Hmm.
So it's like, follow the bouncing ball. Well, this one's calling you, the county this is calling, the medical that is calling, it's paperwork, it's bank accounts, it's cell phones, it's funerals that need to be arranged, it's communication with everybody out there. There's all this noise that starts
Yeah.
happening, and you completely get wrapped up in that, and you're trying to get it all done, and you're literally running on fumes. You're just following that bouncing ball to make sure that on a practical level, you can take care of all these things, right?
Yeah.
Then the funeral takes place. Everybody comes in, and it's all these people, and it's flowers, and
And
it's
sorry,
this. And
was it in
yeah,
Florida, the funeral?
there were two. So I had one in Florida.
Hmm.
uh, as a service for her, but her wishes were to be scattered in South Africa.
Mm.
So, so I had two, right?
Yeah.
So service here, and then I flew home with her ashes a few months later to honor her. She had very, very specific wishes in terms of where she wanted to be scattered, how she wanted to be scattered. Thankfully, we had those
Yeah.
conversations, right? So everybody, arrives, and we have this big, uh, call it service and celebration of life. I mean, she was Scottish. She was like, celebrate, don't cry, just have a party for me, was her words.
Mm.
Um, and then everybody leaves here, and then everything goes silent, but so
Yeah.
silent that it's loud.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
And because you were so busy for a while, and now suddenly you sit, you wake up and you're alone in your home where you were supposed to grow old together,
Yeah.
and the walls are just closing in on you.
Yeah.
You can't breathe, you can't function. um I must admit, I handled it in a way where I just couldn't even be at home. I just couldn't be here. So, and I didn't really have I had some friends that I'd started making, or some kind of community I started building, but we were still very new in those
Yeah.
relationships that we were building. So I didn't feel like I could, you know, bother them in inverted commas too much with what I was going through. So I ended up, I guess, running. I,
Mm.
I I booked one after another international trip, and I just kept getting on the plane and going to new places. Maybe I was distracting myself, yes, possibly, but also just kind of trying to get just fill that. I didn't want that loudness of that silence.
Yeah.
I just couldn't deal with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, at some point I have to stop running, I guess. And I found a wonderful therapist that I was
Hmm.
working with, and she started teaching me or working with me to, well, firstly to recognize what I was feeling and what I was going through, right? And then also helping me to be okay in the silence, to be okay in my
Mm.
own company.
And was that a
Yeah,
therapist in Florida, or did you have an online therapist from your home country?
yeah, this was a therapist in Florida.
Hmm.
Um, Also, and I think why we worked so well together, and I check in with her now and again. I feel like I can go back sometimes because growing and grieving, it's a process.
Yeah.
It just doesn't just go away. Sometimes it rears its ugly head
Yeah.
when you least expect it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And then it damages your existing relationships or yourself, or just trying to function, I guess. I mean, I'm a lot better now, obviously, but I know there's still work to be done.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, so we did this wonderful thing called walk and talk therapy, where I didn't sit in an office on a couch. We went walking for an
Mm.
hour along the beach. And it was kind of funny also, because the faster we walked, she tested me on it. The faster we walked, the more I spoke. And
Yeah.
if she slowed down, my speech would slow down. And and also she was in a marriage with a woman too, so that was helpful to me.
Hmm.
She was
Yeah.
in a multicultural situation, like there was just all of this stuff that kind of lined up. So she really helped me a lot, in terms of just providing me with the tools, I guess, to be able to get through day by day. And when I say tools, some of it is as basic as routine. I had none, right?
Could you? Yeah. So I'm really curious. I've been through grief myself as well, having lost both my parents and multiple friends. Um, I think there's a phase right after, it happened. You're just
Right.
surviving physically. And then
Yeah.
slowly you're realizing, okay, there's a different phase and life just continues and I need to continue myself as well. So what were maybe the routines or tools that you used in that first phase just to keep your head above the water? And then in
Yes.
that second phase later on where you're like, okay, this is my life now and I need to continue it.
Right. I mean, that's a great question too. So, initially, she basically outlined my hours in the day for me, which was really helpful. So it's like, okay, Brigitte, you get up in the morning. Even I wasn't sleeping very well at the time. My sleeping is still not great all the time, but it's definitely a lot better. So sleep was, I mean, and you need your sleep, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sleep deprived, you become even a little more belligerent, or you just can't function as well. But she basically forced me, in inverted commas, to stay in bed till at least 6 a.m. because, I would get up at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and because I just couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And then she helped me with creating like just the morning routine, and how you set your intention for the day
Yeah.
really, really goes a long way. All right, go for a 30-minute walk, take the dog out, right? Take
Yeah.
the dog for a walk. I mean, it's a simple thing like that. I did it this morning, and you come back feeling so, I don't know, just a little more animated, a little more refreshed, right? And then you have your coffee. I watch my news. It's literally the same thing every morning. And
Yeah.
then this was the best part. The best part was I have a journal. Writing with by hand, not typing necessarily, is
Mm-hmm.
very therapeutic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I do 1 page a day. So I don't go crazy every day. I dedicate 1 page every morning to where I'm at. What am I feeling? Like I
Yeah.
check in with myself. Okay, Bridget, are you feeling up? Are you feeling down, left, right? Like, and then setting your intention for the day. All right,
Yeah.
this is what I actually want to achieve today. So any decisions or things that come at you during that day, you make those decisions based on what it is you want the outcome to be for the day. Today,
Yeah.
I just want to get my tasks done for work. Today, I just want to feel blessed and happy that I'm here. So how do let me
Yeah.
seek out those things. Very simple things, very simple things. Um, and then what I found, and then in the evenings, I would get things, and I never did this before, but it really helped me to settle to go to bed. I get things ready. Might get my coffee ready for the morning. I lock a particular door. I make sure the dog stuff is ready. I make sure the cat stuff is ready. They get their vitamins. I get my vitamins. Everything's
Yeah.
ready, right,
Yeah.
for the morning. And then I'm good for, and you brush your teeth, whatever the case may be. But everything's done in a sequential way because it helps settle you somehow subconsciously,
Yeah.
knowing, okay, I'm going to bed now. Because sleep, I was very sleep deprived for a very long time,
Yeah.
very long time. And then I think the phase two to that, in terms of the question you just asked me, I feel like on a little. I feel like I I'm going deeper into some of this stuff. I am reading a lot. I'm listening to a lot of Audible books, and when I say what it's books about grief. It's books about me, and what my new purpose is. Who
Mm-hmm.
is Brigitte now as this person that is no longer
Yeah.
married?
Because right now you have basically a new identity because you're now a widow instead of a married spouse to someone.
Exactly. And let me tell you, and you just said the word, the widow word, like when someone asks me, that's when it really hits home
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
So hey, so are you single? Are you, or tick a box, right? You're doing an application for
Yeah.
something. You're like, well, actually, that's the box I have to tick. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, damn. And then
Yeah.
I do get a lot of odd responses, if I'm speaking to, because I'm only in my 40s. And, the people think of widows or widowers as people that are much, much older,
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
traditionally, right? So then I have to kind of face that, and they kind of look at me a little strangely, like, wait, what do you mean? I don't understand. Sometimes I don't even divulge it. I'm like, I just can't even deal with this right now. But sometimes you have to, right?
Yeah.
Because something needs to be addressed. So now I am not married. You're right. I am not trying to build this future with someone. So what am I
Yeah.
doing?
And so that question, what am I doing? Does it also include what am I doing here? Okay.
Yes.
Can you share more
Yes.
about that?
Yes. So I okay, so you get up and you got work to do. I run my own business, right? Which was also kind of challenging because I started the business pretty much at the same time that she passed away.
Yeah.
So, and you have to, I mean, you have to be on top of your stuff. Did I drop the ball a few times? Absolutely, sure I did.
Yeah.
But now I'm at a stage where I'm like, okay, I have to really grow this thing. But to what end? To what end?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's not around anymore. So, okay, all right, I need a roof over my head. Sure, that's fine. I need to put food on the table. The dog and the cat needs to eat, right?
Yeah.
They need their vitamins and their treats and all that stuff. Anyone, pet parents, we do go, I guess, a little overboard, but I guess I'm compensating in some way.
Fair enough.
And then I'm like, okay, so one thing that has really kind of helped me, I guess, is I went back to the roots of like, why did we come here in the first place?
Yeah.
Why did we come here in the first place? And primarily, work opportunity. I mean, we both had work, but we were working so hard. And if we just projected it out, we were just not going to be able to retire anytime soon. And then both our jobs were always on the line. So I was like, well, we came here primarily for an economic future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to that, and I thought to myself, well, there's still a lot of people that live in South Africa that are highly qualified in many things, but they cannot leave the country because it's not easy to leave the country.
No, yeah.
Especially on a South African passport, you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to immigrate, right? So not everyone's able to. So basically, my business is driven towards creating employment opportunities in South Africa so that I can help those that need to, put food on the table for their children, that need to, support themselves and their loved ones, but they cannot find the work opportunity in the country itself. So everything that I do is from a purpose perspective, right? Because we're trying to find something to work through grief so that we have a reason to get up every day. Well, why do I want to go do this today? Like, what's the point, right? So that is something that I'm kind of clinging on to from a work perspective. Staying where I am in Tampa, in terms of where I live right now, I question it almost every day. Yeah. What am I doing in the US? Yeah. Do I want to stay in this country? Because I also shortly before she passed away, we both became citizens, right? So I have my American passport now too. I'm a dual citizen. So I have more ability to move around, more freedom. Yeah. I mean, the US passport's like a gold mine. You can pretty much walk into almost any country without all the visa applications and the fees and I mean, I think many of us have been through that process. So then I think to myself, and my work is all remote. I'm like, oh, okay. Where am I going? What am I going to go do? Am I going to go back to South Africa? Do I want to go try a new country entirely? Maybe I go to the UK, Yeah. And these are the questions and when I was traveling in the last 2.5 years, I'm asking myself those questions all the time. I'm sitting in a situation where, I mean, I was in, I went back to Scotland to also honor her birthplace there. This was last year, Easter. And I was like, well, maybe I move to Scotland, or maybe I'll just go to England, or, and then maybe. But then you drive yourself a little crazy with all those options. And you're like, oh, all right, just take a breath. Just take a breath and just be where you're at, because I do have the pets. So, Penelope, my pug, was my wife's dog, and it was the apple of her eye. And she always said, before she passed away, she always said, if anything ever happens to me, you make sure you take the best care of Penelope. Everything about. So now, Penelope gets carried around on a silver platter, honestly. And she's 13 now, so I can't put her on another airplane. I don't want to put her through all that stress. Yeah. So I think deep down, unless something significant changes in my life, maybe I meet someone, maybe I don't know. I have started building a great connection of people here that has started. But if the day that Penelope is no longer with us, then I got some decisions to make.
Yeah,
Do I want to be living in this house where we were supposed to retire
exactly.
together?
Yeah.
Because that's what I think about sometimes. Or can I reinvent this? And I've started reinventing some of this space. I've started painting, redecorating, because sometimes you do have to change a few things around you,
Yeah,
just
absolutely. Yeah.
visually, because otherwise you're just going to sit in it, And I
Yeah.
know she would never have wanted me to do that. She
Yeah.
always said, be happy. She was quite a bit older than I am. And she always said, go and be happy, live your best life, don't sit in it. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Even this morning, when I was journaling, I still wrote in my journal, just be present in Tampa. Stop
Mm,
thinking about leaving, because
yeah.
my natural reaction is to want to leave.
I have the same reaction when things happen in my life. Yeah. And it's hard to stay present. Yeah. Um, I have a few questions around. Um, I'm actually really curious about if were there any differences in how Americans deal with grief, whether they lose someone or they see your grief, compared to South Africa? Because I lived in Brazil and my friend passed away there while I was also there. She was Dutch, and Brazilians deal with grief or death maybe in such a different way than the Dutch do. The Dutch is much more distant and cold and like, ooh, scary topic. Whereas in Brazil, it's part of life and life continues really quickly there again. So did you
Right.
notice any difference there in also, yeah, how you were processing the grief? And were there any cultural differences that you ran into in that first phase and maybe also in that second phase?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a similarity in the story you just told. So, South Africans, similar to Brazilians, I guess, um, death is part of life. And we talk about it very directly. We
Mm-hmm.
don't soften the conversation. And that's also just culturally who South Africans are. We 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 don't soften pretty much anything we say. We
Yeah.
are very direct. We don't worry if we're going to offend someone, or
Mm-hmm.
it's an understanding that we have. So what it allows you to do is to kind of really hit home hard on a lot of the things you may be thinking, feeling,
Yeah.
commemorating, remembering. We're not shy to remember the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
um, where I find, and I still find it today actually, where I find just culturally in the US, people are always kind of nervous they're going to either upset you or offend you, or sometimes I just find there's this disconnect on an emotional level to be able to talk about difficult things like death,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can feel the discomfort. I can feel the
Yeah.
discomfort when the topic comes up. You know, Death out there, we see something on the television, someone died, okay, fine, but now I bring it into the room and
Yeah.
if I start talking about it, I can just see people like screaming in their seats and moving from side to side. And um it's very rare, and it's not everybody, but it's very rare that I find someone here that can actually just have a real, honest, hard conversation with me,
Yeah.
because I need to have those conversations other than my therapist, but I have to
Yeah.
pay that person, because they're trained to have those conversations. So definitely from a cultural perspective, it's been very difficult. So I think what ends up happening is, I'm also trying to build a community around me. So that's made things a little problematic for me,
Yeah.
because some people just can't deal with my story, I
Yeah.
guess. And then the fact that I want to talk about it makes them uncomfortable. Why do you want to talk about it? Well, when I talk about it, it helps me heal.
And it's part
And
of your daily life, right?
yeah, it's my daily life. Maybe so, and in this case, maybe someone else is going through something similar. Maybe this resonates with someone else, but I don't want to forget either.
Yeah.
I don't want to sweep it under the rug, and forget this beautiful human that was on this earth because it makes you uncomfortable. where, back home, no issue. We'll talk about it all the time. We'll remember everything. So all that to say, it has proven a little challenging for me to find the right people around me that are comfortable for me to be myself. To one day I need to be sad, and the next day I'm really happy, and then the next day I'm really quiet. Then I'm more reserved, and that up and down, which I acknowledge. I know. I'm working through it, but to find people to be okay with that has been very challenging here. Very challenging.
I can understand it. Yeah. When I moved back from Brazil to the Netherlands, 3 weeks after I moved back home and I got into my new house, started a new job, my dad passed away and we entered a lockdown as well. And so part of my safety net, my friends were still abroad and the rest of my family and older friends were here. But while I was going through the grief, and it's, at some point there's this stage in grief where you just want some distraction. You don't want to be with your heavy feelings all the time in your thoughts. You just want some easy distraction. And that wasn't possible at the time because everything was closed. And this is also when I saw the walls coming down on me because I thought I just want to leave this little prison that I now live in. And it was also very difficult for me to create that social circle again that you have to do when you move abroad, whether it's to a new country or back home again. Because one of the pandemic, but also like you're saying, the roller coaster that you're on, and you don't wake up every day with energy and excitement and wanting to meet people. And so I really understand that part, how difficult it is, and to find those right people who can support you in that or can at least have understanding for that. It can be very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of makes you feel a little isolated sometimes,
Yes.
I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I really don't need people to do anything. I just need them to have the understanding.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not going to talk as much today.
Yeah.
Or maybe right now, let's go do something completely stupid and off the charts because, like you said, you need the distraction.
Yeah.
That unpredictability of how you feel every morning when you wake up. I mean, that is something you can't control. You can't control it. You can manage it, and it gets easier over time, right?
Yeah.
But there are days where you wake up and you're like, I just cannot face the world today.
Yeah.
You just want to hide in your little cocoon and be in your little safe space. And then those other days you just want to like, okay, I'm driving to the airport. I'm going to book a random ticket and I'm just going to go anywhere but
anywhere
here.
but here. Yeah. I recognize that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so you said also when Claire passed away, you had just moved, so your social circle wasn't that big yet. How did you? Because for me, it was really key. I had some close friends that were really, really there for me, and also my friends further away. We saw each other online. How did you find that social support in those first weeks or months after she passed away?
Yeah. I mean, locally, there was very little. I had a very small handful of people that knew both Claire and I that we had just met and started formulating relationships with. Thankfully, they were, and they are, and I still see these ladies. We have like a monthly dinner, right, where we catch up. Where Claire used to be a part of this girls' night, but now it's obviously just me. And they were integral to just, and I think just their maturity was really helpful, right? Just in terms of checking in, just basics. Are you eating? Did you make? I mean, just eating and keeping the house in check is a task when you're going through a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I think the real raw, hard conversations where you ugly cry and you break down, and that was with my closest friends in South Africa. It had to be done over the phone. Good old WhatsApp. I mean, we can't live without it, right?
Yeah.
When you're moving around the world like this. So that, I mean, it was difficult in terms of, because you want that physical face-to-face connection when you're feeling like that sometimes, just somebody to hold you, to hug you while you're crying, or just, but you have to make do with what you've got.
Yeah.
So thankfully it's 2025 wherever we are, and there is technology that can bridge that gap a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if this was 10 years ago or whatever, I mean, it would have, I think it would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Um, but going home when I took Claire's ashes home, that was just flying with her ashes, right?
Yeah.
Usually she's sitting next to me on the seat. And now I'm supposed to put her in the overhead. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I held on to her the entire time. And going through security, I mean, they were very good. They were very good with me because, there's a whole bunch of, well, now I know there's all this
Yeah.
documentation you have
I
to
know. Yeah.
have, but I didn't know. It's
Yeah.
again following the bouncing ball, getting the logistic piece. But now I'm walking through security and they're like, okay, we have to stop you. We have to check. And I just burst into tears. And that was here at Tampa International, the TSA officer. He was so gentle with me. I will never forget it in that moment. He's like, don't worry. I can see what's happening here. I will be very gentle and
Mm.
I'll make sure that everything is the way you had it, right? Because they have to open things up and
Yeah.
all of those.
Yeah.
And that's just where I started falling apart and really feeling a lot of these things. But
Mhm.
going home and having that celebration for her and having all her special people from home where we could actually talk about the last 10 years and not the last year, that people,
Yeah.
these are people that actually knew us for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That's where I got a lot of my, call it, healing
Mhm.
done, because there we could all be in person. There we were not scared to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs, the left, the right. And everybody would share their memories, and it I guess that trip was probably one of the best things that I did
Yeah.
for her, to honor her, but also from a self point of view, so that I
Mhm.
could connect not just over WhatsApp, but with people that were
Yeah.
really meaningful in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What would be your tip for other expats who are going through the same thing, where they lose their spouse or a child or a friend when they live abroad? What would be your tips for them?
I would say if you don't if you don't already have a community around you, then seek one out, right? And it can be difficult. Maybe start with like a support group, or something hobby related. Just get out a little
Yeah.
bit and start engaging with other people, because um, keeping yourself locked up, it's not going to help you any. If you do already have a community around you, lean on
Mm-hmm.
them, talk to them. And those that don't stick around or get uncomfortable, well, then they're just probably not meant to be part of the community. Because let me tell you, I've had people that have come and gone
Yeah.
over the short time I've been here, because they say they want to help, then you lean in, and then suddenly poof, there's no understanding, there's none of that, or just that discomfort. So then I think to myself, well, if that's the case, I'm not going to just allow anyone into my space just because I want the space filled. I
Yeah.
also have to fill it with people that are actually going to stick around, and because I'm going to do the same for them.
Yeah.
And then if, WhatsApp, call home, or get on a plane, go home for a while is
Yeah.
what I would do. If I,
Yeah.
if I had more time, I would have stayed in South Africa for a more lengthy period. In fact, I'm kind of getting to that point now where I was speaking to some family and friends at home, and I kind of feel like I need to go home for a minute. And when I say for a minute, I mean at least for a month or two. Like,
Yeah.
just take some time. Don't rush in and rush out, which we often always do.
Yeah.
And a lot of us live a long way from home. I mean, to travel from the US to Cape Town, South Africa, I mean, door to door, you're looking at like 36 hours.
Yeah.
So you really have to put the time aside. And I know now, just over 2 years later, I have a deep burning desire just to go home, not to go sightseeing, not
Mm-hmm.
to any of that. I want to go stay with friends and family, and I just want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
and connect with
Go
my
back to your
roots.
roots. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. You
Oh,
know,
beautiful. Yeah.
that
Um,
would be my advice. Yeah.
yeah, that's really good to hear. And there's a question I ask every person that is on the show at the end of the each interview, and that is not related to the topic that we're talking about now, but you also have a lot of experience living abroad. So, what would be your number one hack to make living abroad easier or better or simply more fun?
Well, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier. So the
Hmm.
key is to be able to connect with people, right? Because wherever you live, it's a different language, different culture, different food, different everything. But people are key to all of that. So you
Yeah.
want to build those connections. So on a daily basis, I always think to myself, where can I go and make another meaningful connection? So either I'm actually looking at a mountain biking club that I'm thinking of joining, so that I can get up and out one, but then I can build a community around me of people with similar interests to me.
Yeah.
Or what I do is also I I am very purposeful in the conversations that I have. Sometimes I'm traveling, right? Locally, domestically in the US, and I am sitting at the bar area waiting for my connecting flight, and people are sitting next to you and they start talking to you. I actually pause and I stop and I am extra attentive to all these interactions that I have with people. And in my head, I'm thinking, what am I learning here?
Yeah.
Because I'm in a new country. What is it that they're really saying? How are
Yeah.
they really feeling? I really kind of involve myself in these conversations, because when you're living in another country, you want to learn and you want to
Yeah.
experience and you want to feel. And the best way to do that is to really pay attention to the people around you, not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it. That for me, I get a lot of self kind of satisfaction out of that,
Yeah.
because then I know, oh, I'm not in South Africa anymore.
Yeah.
I'm here. This is actually what is happening around me right now. That is a great hack. And
Yeah.
then you end up making really good friends. Closing thought, like randomly, I was going to Utah on business, and I had to fly via Dallas in Texas, and I'm stuck there. The flights are all delayed. I'm sitting at a bar trying to get food. I meet this gentleman next to me. Turns out he lives in Orlando up the road. We exchange numbers. Him and I were at a basketball game not so long ago, and we're communicating because we
Yeah.
connected. We
Yeah.
we took the time and we really paid attention to each other, and now we're friends. Some
Yeah.
random encounter in Dallas.
Yeah, that is great advice. Not only as an expat, I think, but also as anyone in this modern world where, we're so busy with ourselves, with our technology that we don't notice people around us that much anymore. So I love this advice.
Yes, yes, yes. Lift your head. Everybody's sitting on their damn phone the entire
Yeah.
time. Just lift your head and look around you and just start really talking to the person that's
Yeah.
next to you. You'll be amazed what will
Yeah.
happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Brigitte, thank you so much for sharing your story here. It was really beautiful to hear and also how open you are about it. And I'm sure others who are going through something similar or who have gone through something similar will recognize a lot. So thank you very much for being on this Expat Live.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you.